And now we're going to talk about, this is kind of our review of the week, because as we said, there's like nothing in the theaters right now.
Yeah.
So, Bob's kind of, tell us what the genesis of watching this movie was.
Well, you guys are huge James Bond fans, and I feel a little left out with this. I've seen a few of them. I enjoyed what I saw, but I was never a hardcore fan. So my idea was to kind of go through from the very beginning, start right at the very first one, and work my way through and just kind of get a feel for why you guys like this stuff so much. And it's also a timepiece to me, too, because, this is 50 years ago these movies come. This the first one come out. So I really want to see what all the hype is about throughout the whole genre of James Bond. So I figured, let's start at the beginning, let's do some reviews, and just see what happens.
Okay, this is Dr. No from 1962, the first James Bond movie. Not the first... Was this the first Bond book written, Schweitzer? Or was that Casino Royale?
That was Casino Royale.
Yeah, I thought so.
I think that this was actually the sixth, and to be fair, Fleming wanted to end it after the fifth James Bond novel, which was From Russia with Love.
Mm-hmm. And it should be noted that Ian Fleming didn't like Dr. No, the movie. I read that after he was shown it, he thought I think his quote was, "It's absolutely dreadful." Mm-hmm. So the writer of the book didn't like it, but he ended up liking the series. He was never one to say that all the movies are bad. He just didn't like this one. Mm-hmm. This movie is directed by Terrence Young, who also directed From Russia with Love and Thunderball. I don't think he directed any more, but he directed the first three. Schweitzer, you want to take us through this movie kind of step by step?
Yes, it starts out in Jamaica, and we find that somebody is killing some British agents who are collecting information on someone named Dr. No, and good old 007 is introduced playing cards and not actually doing his job. And they decide at 3 in the morning, this is the best time to send you to Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And it seems that Dr. No is already aware. He seems to have his hands, so to speak, in every part of the area that he's around. He has people who are willing to die to keep silent. And 007 is trying to see if Dr. No is interfering in what's called toppling. Interfering with American missiles and rockets, because the Americans are getting ready to launch I think it was a rocket around the moon.
Now let's talk about the beginning of this movie a little bit. There's no cold open, which is rare for a James Bond movie. Yeah, usually there's a cold open before the credits. But what did you think, Bubs, about the opening? The Maurice Binder did the graphics and stuff like that, and the John Barry. Did John Barry do the score from the get-go, Schweitzer?
I cannot remember, to be honest, but I do think so.
It was either John Barry or was it Monty Norman? I think
it was John Barry.
Was it? Okay. So what did you think of the opening?
I was wondering how good 1960s acid really was.
Yeah.
Because that opening was very strange.
Yeah.
And which it was the 60s, I get it. It was, although it was early 60s, so I thought maybe that kind of stuff didn't start weaving its way into the culture until the mid 60s. But hey, what do I know? And then they segue into that Three Blind Mice thing.
It transitions right from the Bond theme to Three Blind Mice,
and that was so random to me. Oh, okay, we're doing nursery rhymes right now.
A Jamaican version of the song Three Blind Mice.
And then you see the three guys walking with the kids. Like, is this a comedy?
It is a really weird opening.
And this was not the first Bond movie I saw. I think I'd seen at least 10 before, and then I put this in for the first time. I'm watching. It's like, this isn't how a Bond movie is supposed to be. No, like you're missing a part. You're supposed to have a scene before the musical number, and the Three Blind Mice thing. I'm just kind of like, what the hell movie is this? How did this franchise survive this?
Yes.
And the weird thing is, and this I thought was weird. It's I guess it's kind of interesting that there's these three assassins who are posing as blind men, but they really don't need to be, because they just walk to this person's house and then shoot her through the window. Like, they don't need to pose as blind men for this. They could have just walked to her house.
Yeah,
like it's so
from
weird. The book.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't really make sense.
Well, and what else didn't make sense is this didn't really seem like a very secure compound.
No.
So she has this like secret panel in the wall that opens up, and she can send signals to everybody. But there's windows everywhere.
Yeah, she's literally just sitting in like a veranda.
Yeah. So anybody walking by the window and go, oh,
yeah, she's sitting right next to a giant window. Yes. Like really good secret spy communications there, guys. It should be noted, Bond doesn't. I wrote down Bond doesn't actually appear until about 8 to 10 minutes into the movie.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see him for a while, but I love the intro to Bond in this movie.
Me too.
It's pretty iconic, where you see Sylvia Trench, which I always wondered, is that like a play on like a Pussy Galore kind of sexual innuendo Bond girl named Trench, or is that just a coincidence?
I think it's just a coincidence, and as far as I know, she never appeared in any novels, but she is the only Bond girl to appear in more than one movie.
Huh.
Oh, she came back in Casino Royale.
Nope, from Russia with Love.
Okay,
wow.
One of the people from Dr. No came back in the Daniel Craig Casino Royale as an older woman. Like, she was in her 70s at this point, or something like that. But I don't know if it was Sylvia Trench, but one of the people from Dr. No came back in Casino Royale.
I heard that, but not that it was somebody from Dr. No, that it was somebody from You Only Live Twice.
Are you sure?
I'm very certain.
I'm just looking this up right now.
But Sylvia Trench was supposed to be a recurring character whom would always be, performing fellatio on Bond or something, then he'd be called off.
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, James, you always leave me. Oh, well, have some knee pads, darling.
Did you happen to notice that she did the people's eyebrow when she was in the hotel room?
Yeah. It's just a little random fact I wrote down. Not really. It's just this is the only movie in the series where Connery doesn't wear a toupee.
Oh, wow.
Interestingly enough, he started going bald shortly after Dr. No. So, interestingly enough.
Bastard.
One thing I read, and I tried to piece it together during the movie. I read that the sets, the furniture in the sets was built smaller to make Sean Connery appear bigger.
Really?
And I think in the hotel room,
they have to do that with the women's badges too.
I think in the hotel room you can kind of notice it, how the furniture is a little bit smaller, and Sean Connery does look pretty big. He is a big guy, but that was interesting. I love the intro to Bond. It's so iconic and classy, and the casino I think looks amazing. So Schweitzer, keep going here, bud.
Okay, so Dr. No has his hands and everything in Jamaica, and eventually Bond meets up with CIA agent Felix Leiter and
you're skipping a big part. You got to mention the first time Bond goes to M's office. This is like this is classic Bond stuff. Yes. Bond going into M's office, throwing his hat at the hat rack.
That was pretty cool.
Which apparently took them like 50 takes to do.
Really?
Yeah, like it's really difficult, but he makes it look flawless.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry. I've seen it so many times that it's just kind of like, well, no, we get our introduction to Miss Moneypenny. Bond replaces his Beretta so that he can give it to Robert Blake to kill his wife, and he gets this Walther PPK. Oh, did I say that out loud?
Yeah. I wrote down here a quote that I think is great. It's a really, really racy quote. I mean, for the 60s, Bond goes up to Moneypenny and says, "What gives Moneypenny?" And she says, "Me giving an ounce of encouragement." That's a great quote. I love that. And one of these things is probably just something that nobody would even notice, but one of my favorite things about these old Bond movies, it's such an iconic piece of set to me, is M's red padded leather door.
Yeah, the double door.
I love that thing. It's in all of the Bernard Lee Bond movies.
Oh no,
it is awesome. I love that door. I just think it's amazing, that bright red padded door. That's so cool. And Bond's, like Schweitzer said, Bond's Beretta is replaced with a PPK. This is a reference to the Fleming Boothroyd incident, where Fleming had written in the books that Bond had a Beretta. And a fan wrote him, his fan's name was Boothroyd, and corrected Fleming, saying that he should have something smaller, like a PPK, and he was apparently a gun expert. And he was. This is basically the YouTube comments of the '60s. He wrote a letter saying, "Sorry, the gun is wrong. It should be a Walther and not a Beretta, and he should have a chamois leather holster, not a stout leather holster." He actually complained about the leather used in Bond's holster, and Fleming actually took it to heart, and he changed it because of what this Boothroyd guy says, and that's why he's played by Peter Burton in this episode, and not Desmond Llewellyn. They refer to him as the Armorer, but he is actually the character of Q, because Q's real name is Major Boothroyd.
Yeah.
So Fleming named the quartermaster of MI6 after this Boothroyd.
Did the guy who wrote the letter say that Fleming should get cancer and die for having it wrong?
Well, he did, didn't he? Isn't that what Fleming died of, cancer?
No, Fleming died of a heart attack, actually.
Oh, I thought it was some sort of cancer. Oh well.
No, and Fleming did appreciate the advice, and that's why he even wrote in Dr. No that Major Joffrey Boothroyd is the leading expert on firearms.
That's cool.
Well, it's interesting to know that Desmond Llewellyn didn't always play Q. It was actually Peter Burton in the first movie, so it's a little piece of trivia not everyone might know. So what happens after Bond gets his mission to go to Jamaica?
Well, he gets there, he runs into some operatives of Dr. No. Like I said, they're not willing to give up anything. They're willing to take their own life instead of be taken alive. And eventually he runs into CIA agent Felix Leiter and his Jamaican ally Quarrel.
Yeah.
And eventually they find out that Strangways, that's the missing British agent, was investigating the possibility of toppling around an island called Crab Key. And
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I just want to stop you because there's a couple things I want to point out. The scene in Bond's hotel room where he's doing these kind of low-key spy things. He takes a hair and he puts it over the crack of the door to see if the door's been open, and he puts some kind of powder, probably like baby powder or something, on his suitcase, see if anyone's opened it. I love that stuff, and that is something that I think is very much missing from all the other Bond movies. This
spy work.
This little simple spy work that Bond does. In this movie, Bond is more of a detective than, a stuntman, shooting bunches of people and jumping off of dams and stuff like that.
And that's what I really noticed about this movie. It sounded more. It felt like more of a detective espionage type movie than was he really spying on? He's kind of not being all that subtle about things.
And that's definitely something that's missing from the later Bond movies, and that's why I really like that scene. And it's a great scene. It's very quiet. There's no music. He's just doing these little spy things to see if his room is tampered with. So I really like that. Interestingly enough, before this is something I just thought was weird. It's never explained. When after he meets Quarrel, they go to this little bar, and the bartender's name is Pussfeller. Do you ever find that weird, Schweitzer?
Well,
why is his name Pussfeller?
I don't get it, because they say in the books they say Pussfeller wrestled. He got that name because he
wrestles alligators.
No, because in the books he wrestled an octopus. Hence the puss.
Okay.
Oh, see, in the movie they say he wrestles alligators.
Yeah.
Why didn't they say he wrestles octopuses? That would have made more sense.
Octopi?
Yeah. I didn't get that at all.
I just thought it was weird that his name was Pussfeller.
Someone tells me they didn't probably pay that much attention to detail on movies like they do now, maybe.
I guess. Felix Leiter comes in, played by Jack Lord, which I think he might be my favorite Felix Leiter. I don't know if you know this, Buzz, but Felix Leiter is a character who comes in. He's in like 6 or 7 Bond movies, maybe even more. He's sort of Bond's contact when he goes to places. They kind of help him out with stuff. But he's played by a different actor in almost every movie. Does Jack Lord play him twice?
No. The actor in Live and Let Die also played him in License to Kill.
Right. The Dalton movies, he was the same guy, but otherwise he's played...
No, not in the Dalton movies. He was...
I thought the Dalton movies were the same Leiter.
Nope. The guy in License to Kill with Dalton, He was in the first Roger Moore movie as Felix Leiter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 16-year difference, and they decided, let's bring this guy back.
What the fuck not?
So, this is the first appearance of Felix Leiter, who will make many appearances. Okay, keep going.
Okay, and we find out that Dr. No is trying to kill Bond. He puts he tries to get the 3 blind mice after him. You know, they almost shoot him outside the hotel, but they miss. Then Dr. No, or someone... Oh, that's right, he investigates Professor Dent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and finds out that Dent might know more than he says because these samples that Strangways found were radioactive, and Dent says that they were just useless pieces of ore.
Yeah.
And so Professor Dent puts a tarantula in Bond's bed.
Yeah. That's more efficient than just walking up to him with a silencer and a gun and just shooting him.
Well, I have notes on this because he goes... First of all, the scene where Dent goes into that big room to talk to... Is it number 1 he talks to in that big room where he's sitting in the chair, Schweitzer?
No, he's talking to Dr. No.
See, I thought so, but it didn't sound like Dr. No at all. I thought it would have been number 1, who we'll see later in
From Russia with Love.
From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
But no, I think just because Dr. No is a lot more calm and, tranquil. Because when he later meets Bond, it's kind of like... holy crap, you've gotten this far. Good, but you've also pissed me off.
And he says, we failed to kill Bond. He's like, well, you won't fail this time. So he gives him a little spider in a cage. And it's like, okay, that's probably the most ineffective weapon you could possibly think of to kill somebody.
No.
And I'm thinking, okay, maybe they want to make it look like an accident, like a spider just happened to crawl into his bed and kill him.
Yeah.
But just a couple scenes earlier, the 3 blind mice tried to shoot him in the head, which is very non-accidental. And later, when the spider inevitably fails, Dent just shoots him in his bed. So what's the fucking point of the spider?
And the spider just crawls anyway. Like, it doesn't even try to bite him. Then the spider crawls off of him.
Yeah.
And so it was very easy for Bond to just kind of roll over and flip the spider onto the ground and stomp the hell out of it.
I actually
Peter loved that.
I love that scene where he notices the spider in his bed and he doesn't freak out. He waits until it crawls off him. Yeah. That is a great scene. It shows Bond's control of his, he doesn't freak out. He sees it, out of a dead sleep, he wakes up and sees a tarantula on, and he immediately knows what to do. He's just perfectly calm. I love that scene. When later when it crawls off him and he grabs his shoe and he hits him 10 times and the music stings to each hand, goes, bam, 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 bam. That's a little bit over the top.
Yeah.
Kind of silly, but whatever.
It was the 60s.
Yeah, I forgive it.
Yeah.
But you can see there's so much in this movie that was so open to parody, and I'm seeing so many scenes and they're like, okay, that's where they got that from, that's where they parodied this from.
Yeah. And before that happens, Bond goes back to his apartment, he checks the hair on the door and the powder on the briefcase, and he realizes people have been in his apartment, but he just pours himself a glass of vodka and goes to bed.
It's like, whatever.
Okay, people were here, whatever, I'm going to bed. He doesn't want to check the rooms to make sure they're not here, or what he does sniff the vodka.
Are my booze okay?
And thinks, okay, it might be poison, and cracks a new bottle. Okay, fine. But what if Dent is hiding in the office with a machine gun, or in the closet with a machine gun? He doesn't even check.
Or the bed doing this thing, pointing the gun straight up,
So again, all that spy stuff I like is completely pointless because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit disappointing, but yeah. So then, Schweitzer, what happens?
Well, afterwards, Professor Dent tries to kill Bond after he has his way with Miss Chang.
Miss Taro.
Oh, Miss Taro, that's right. Yeah. And
the guy can't control himself.
Well, no, he can't. And he finds that... Actually, no. Dent is about to reveal who he's working for, but Bond's just like, oh no, your gun's empty, so I'm just going to shoot you instead of getting some answers out of you.
Right.
Okay, yeah. And that's that scene where he kills Dent. I love that scene, how he waits there and he just plays solitaire waiting for Dent to come. I think that's awesome.
That was cool,
I love that scene. And the quote after, he shoots the bed and then Bond's talking to him and then Dent reaches for his gun, shoots him, and it's empty. And then Bond says, "That's a Smith & Wesson, and you've had your six." I love that quote. That's a great quote. Before that, the first Bond quip, I would call it, in the series is said after. Remember, there's a small chase scene. I think it's when Bond is on his way to Miss Taro's house, and he the car falls off the cliff, and he's looking at the car that just fell off the cliff and exploded. And this random man, it's like construction worker or something, comes up to him and goes, "What happened to him?" And then Bond goes, "I think they were on their way to a funeral." That doesn't make any sense. That's so stupid. Like the first Bond
quip. They were in a hearse.
What?
They were driving a hearse. Remember?
That was a hearse.
Yeah.
Didn't look like a
hearse. 60s hearse.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
And you got to remember they're in Jamaica and different makes of cars.
Well, that makes it even lamer.
Of course it does.
That's so lame.
I've got to go bang my criminal enemy now.
Smack.
Got to go force myself on a woman.
It's a 60s year.
Give her a smack if she deserves it. You remember? Did you hear that whole thing? Yeah, that was great. Good old woman beating Sean Connery. I love him.
Yeah, really beating. He's kind of roughing him up a little bit.
So this is about the point where they decide to go to Crab Key, but Quarrel thinks there's a dragon there, and that's why people don't want to go there. And I can see if he says, the locals think there's a dragon, but Quarrel actually believes there's a dragon there.
Yeah.
Just makes him seem really fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Especially when you see the dragon, and it's just a goddamn Trans Am with a hatch on top.
I thought it was going to be something come from the air, like a glider or something with flames coming out of it.
It's literally a car.
Right.
With a flamethrower on it.
In the front, and for some reason, they don't run off to the side, they just keep going straight at the car, and of course... Quarrel is extra crispy later.
And this is after they go to the island and they meet Honey Rider, played by Ursula Andress, who had all of her lines dubbed for the movie.
Did they really?
Yeah, because her English was so bad, apparently. They had all of her lines dubbed. I have to say, Ursula Andress, pretty good looking lady.
Yeah, she was.
Very good looking.
Yeah.
One note I have here, Bond is talking to Honey Rider and setting up to fuck her later, and basically, and Quarrel's like, there's a dragon coming or whatever, and they had to run, and Bond tells Quarrel to fetch his shoes, and I just think like I almost expect him to call him boy, because like, fetch my shoes. Don't
forget to shine them.
Yeah, exactly. This is a movie in the 60s, and Bond does not... it doesn't feel... there's a lot of black characters in the movie, because it takes place in Jamaica. And nothing in the movie really feels insensitive or racist or anything.
No.
But it's a little weird when Bond tells Coral to fetch his shoes, I think. Fetch my shoes, boy. Make it quick. Yes, Master Bond.
Go get your fucking shine box.
Yeah. And this is where my note says, the dragon looks fucking dumb, Quarrel is a retard. Because he looks at the dragon, which is literally like a freaking car with like a hatch on top. They don't even make it look like a dragon, it's a fucking car.
Yeah.
And Quarrel says, if that's not a dragon, then what is?
It's a dragon.
Touche.
And Honey Rider thinks it's a dragon too.
Yes.
She thinks it's, and she goes, and Bond's like, "There's no such thing as dragons." And she goes, "Have you ever seen a marmoset dance? Have you ever seen a scorpion, a heat stroke scorpion sting itself? I have. It doesn't mean fucking dragons exist, you dumb bitch." Like she's. I don't think it's a problem with the movie, but it makes them look pretty stupid.
Right.
I haven't seen that stuff, but at the same time, I know that scorpions exist. I know that a mongoose exists. I don't believe that a dragon exists, you idiot!
Yeah. So they're captured. Like you said, Quarrel is roasted extra crispy.
Maybe if he had just moved from side to side, he's just shooting, and then
He's hiding in like a very sparse bush. Yeah. Like he's very visible. I mean, even though it's nighttime and he's not smiling.
They'll never see me.
He's easily seen in this bush. Sorry, and he's roasted pretty much dead by the car, and like Coral has been with us for like an hour now, and his death is pretty unceremonious.
Yeah,
like, Bond's like, oh, he's gone, and then like that's it.
I'll get you for kidnapping us. Oh, and killing him too. Yeah, I guess.
You all the bastards that killed Quinzel or Quindel or whatever his name was.
The black guy who got my shoes.
Did he ever get his shoes? I didn't see.
I don't know.
He should have walked over to Quarl's charred, burnt corpse, and Quarl's just clutching his shoes. And then he grabs them and like rips his arm off with them and shakes his arm off. Like, you served me well. Yeah. I just wish they would put a little more gravitas to Quarl's death.
You know, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. If only they had hashtags in the 60s.
You know.
Justice for Quarl.
Write a letter.
Anyway, so after the dragon incident, Honey and Bond get captured, brought into Dr. No's secret underground base that every Bond villain needs to have.
Of course.
One thing just a little thing I wanted to mention. They're all wearing hazmat suits under there because apparently the island's very radioactive. Mm-hmm. Except the women who bring Bond to like his room and show him around, like they're just wearing dresses.
Well, they were on the other side of the decontamination chamber, though, right?
Yeah. Yes, they were. And also...
But that place wouldn't be radioactive?
Well, no, it wasn't. They weren't in there because they were around the radioactivity. They were there because Bond and Ursula Andrews were still radioactive. That's why they were all wearing the suits. Once they got them clean, they didn't have to wear the suits anymore.
I see. I like how half of the suits, the hazmat suits, are bright pink. That was, okay, whatever.
It's a festive evil operation.
Half of them were just white. Half of them were bright pink. So I don't know. Maybe they.
maybe his lucky red cap got washed in the laundry.
So they're shown to their room. Very un-spy-like. Bond just happens to drink a cup of coffee that was offered to him and Honey.
Yeah.
Surprise! The coffee was drugged, so they fall asleep.
He probably thought there was some Baileys or something in it. It's like, I gotta have alcohol right now.
Like, he's so careful not to drink the vodka in his hotel room because he thinks it might be poison. Like, oh, great coffee! I could use a spot.
Well, at the same time, he probably thought if they're going to do something bad to us, they would have done it already.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. They had him captured, more or less naked, and, it's just like, here, take a shower. Now, here, go to this hotel. Like, we're not going to do anything bad to you.
Yeah.
False sense of security, that's all it is.
I guess.
So they throw Bond, after they send them to their room, this nice, hotel room underground, and then they drug them. And after they're drugged, they throw Bond into a cell? Why?
No, I just thought that they had put him in like a bed, and then Dr. No comes in and very creepily just like adjusts
I
his
forgot about
sheets.
the dinner scene. Yeah.
And
they established that Dr. No has like robotic hands, like he lost his hands probably due to radiation or something. And they have this scene at the dinner table where he like grabs this thing and crushes it. So it's like, oh, Dr. No has these really strong robotic hands.
Yeah.
But it never comes up.
No, never does.
It never comes into play.
Fight or anything.
No.
It's just cause.
Yeah.
In the book, he has pincers. And the reason that he has them is because...
Like Futurama?
I don't know. But it's been a while since I read the book. But remember how they mentioned that he worked for the Tong group?
Yeah.
Well, apparently he stole like $10 million from the Tongs. They found him,
cut his hands off?
cut his hands off, and shot him through the heart. But he lived because, in actuality, his heart was on the other side of his body.
Huh. Well, that would have made more sense.
Yeah, and that would have been an interesting thing. And that's kind of a little thing that they tradition they carried on in Bond movies, where the villain had some sort of physical abnormality.
Yeah,
right.
He's bullied, I guess.
Like Renard in The World Is Not Enough, or Christopher Lee's Third Nipple in The Man with the Golden Gun, even though that doesn't... Actually, that does come into play now that I think
Does it really?
Yeah, it does.
Emilio Largo,
or Blofeld's scar on his face. Like, So that's kind of neat. I wish that would have been neat to include in the movie.
Oh, I
So
can't
that's
wait to get. Yeah, you could have like grabbed her ass or something like that. Say, hey, baby, like a little rub, something like that.
Yeah.
She had daddy issues. Her father's dead, so
So after the dinner scene, Bond is thrown into a cell, and he escapes through the biggest air duct ever created by man.
It was a giant water slide.
Yeah, like it's a cliche in action movies where the hero escapes through air ducts or whatever, and it's always like they're way too big. Like I've never seen an air duct the size that they have in action movies. I don't think.
Well, it must have been a water pipe or something, though.
But why would it go to Bond's cell with like a grate on one end? Like this tube. Like, okay, let's throw Bond in the cell with the giant tube on the ceiling with the flimsy grate in front of him. He'll never escape.
Nope.
And that tube is like 4 foot by 4 foot. Like 3 Bonds could fit in there.
What was the purpose of Dr. No keeping him alive again? Like, you'll see or you'll pay or something later, but they never really had a payoff for why he left him alive.
It's a Bond cliche where the villain has to leave Bond alive to thwart him in the end.
Yeah.
They're really, like, there is no reason.
The Austin Powers things comes to mind. Okay, I'm just going to close these doors and assume that everything went to plan.
Exactly.
Exactly. So Bond goes into the, I guess, operations room or whatever, where Dr. No is conducting his plan.
We had to steal a suit first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Now, let me bring this up. Dr. No's actual plan seems really lame to me. Okay,
Yes.
Schweitzer. He wants
We never actually mentioned that he mentions he's part of a bigger group called Spectre.
Yes.
Yes.
The Special Executive for Counterintelligence, Terrorism, Revenge, Extortion.
Yes, which is a really silly acronym.
Everything evil. Just say everything evil under one roof.
Yeah, kidnapping, petty larceny, pushing old ladies down the stairs.
Vandalism.
Basically, they started with the word Spectre. And was like, how do we make this into an acronym?
Yes.
That's exactly what it was. But he's a part of Spectre. But the reason why he's doing this is because he wanted to offer his services as a scientist to America and China, I believe, and they rejected him
For no reason? Or because
for
he was
some
a criminal?
reason.
I didn't understand that
clear.
part either. The West rejected me.
Dr.
Now
No
they shall
motivation.
both pay.
Dr. No motivation.
Yeah.
I like that. No, but like, and so he's going to launch these missiles at, I guess, America and
missiles?
China.
I thought he was trying to take down the missiles that they were shooting.
Oh yeah, he's trying
or
to
something.
topple their missiles or
But
whatever.
I guess they had to be nuclear for some reason.
My point is, this is the most petty revenge plot ever.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, they rejected me, I'll get them.
Yeah.
Like, Dr. No has the worst motivation.
They'll make it stupid elaborate, too.
Yeah. I'm going to spend millions of dollars on this secret underground base, which he admits when they're done, he's just going to destroy and move on. So he spends millions of dollars just to screw up this American missile launch or
Which I'm
whatever.
sure there was probably way easier ways to do it than what he was doing.
Right. And then move on. Like,
Yeah.
it's the worst ever.
And it's like, Bob, get to your station. Why aren't you at your station?
Yeah.
Not like, oh, well, maybe that's not him. Maybe we should see who's under that mask. No, Bob, get over there. Okay.
Yeah. He apparently knows who it is, even though he's wearing a full radiation suit.
Yes.
And you can't see who it is. Apparently he knows.
Yeah. Why your guy would all of a sudden not be where he's supposed to be. That wouldn't, set off an alarm or something.
So as they're doing this, Bond goes up onto this platform where I think this is hilarious. He goes up to this big piece of machinery with a gigantic sign that says "Reactor On," and then there's this wheel that you'd see on like the door of a sub.
Yeah.
And it says in big red letters, "Danger Level." Like it's like something you'd see in like the Bat Cave in the 60s. You know, like Bat Danger Computer. Like
Yes.
everything is labeled with these giant labels, and he just starts turning the wheel to the danger level.
Mr. Radar.
Yeah. And he gets it like all the way up before they even notice him.
Yeah.
And so Bond completely destroys Dr. No's plans by turning a wheel.
Yep.
That's it. That's all he does.
Blows up the base, but not for only those two get out, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Um,
And the movie ends with Bond and the Bond girl floating in a boat on the sea, which I think, 85% of Bond movies end this way, Schweitzer?
Yeah.
Like,
More or less.
every other Bond movie seriously ends with Bond and the woman floating on a boat away from the scene. Like, it happens in, it happens here, it happens in Thunderball, It happens in The Man with the Golden Gun.
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies. Is it? No, not World Is Not Enough. The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yes.
It happens in a lot of Bond movies.
Yeah,
So.
because the Coast Guard or the military comes and rescues them and tows the boat, and then they're like, "Nah, we don't want this," and
they'll just float up.
Thing.
Yeah.
He
does that in a lot of Bond movies too. They rescue him, and then he refuses the rescue, so he can fuck the chick in the boat. He does that all the time.
He's the man.
It's like one of these days they're just going to leave him there, and he's just going to float out in the ocean for 3 weeks. And
buddy, you're going to get dehydrated in a few minutes. You might want to have him throw you a bottle of water or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys think it was weird? Like, because didn't Bond say to Leiter, we'll be back in 12 hours, and if not, bring your Marines. But at the same time, more than a day passed. Like almost 2 days have passed, and then he finally shows up with the Marines after the base is blown up.
Yeah.
And then Leiter shows up. It's like, Mr. Bond, I hope you're doing well. Hey, aren't you going to ask about Quarrel? Oh, Mr. Bond, I'm glad you're okay. Did Quarrel get your shoes?
Black Lives Matter, Mr. Bond.
He made him ride in the back of the boat.
What happened? What happened to the three blind mice?
Nothing.
They were in that. What's it called? The hearse.
Oh, they were in the hearse? Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember them being in there either.
Okay, so I guess they died.
Okay.
They were on their way to a funeral.
Oh, the three dead mice. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the end of the movie. Bubs, what's your general take on Dr. No?
I thought it was an interesting get your feet wet into the character movie. I enjoyed that. There was a lot of elements from the James Bond lore that were established, but there were also a bunch that were still not quite there yet. One being the gadgets. There was no big thing with the gadgets. And who's that? Is that M or Q that gives them the gadgets?
Q gives them the gadgets.
Yeah, so there was really none of that. I expected a little more action in it, so...
That's the thing that came in with the later movies, too, because Fleming never really wrote gadgets into the books. Mm-hmm. That was completely made for the movies.
Okay.
From Russia with Love started it with the briefcase, I believe.
Yeah.
And the knife in the shoe. That was kind of where gadgets started.
So it was really... I found it a really interesting detective/espionage film for that. I mean... I'm not going to be too hard on it just because it was their first attempt. It was 1962, so some of the stuff was a little laughable in it. What I really enjoy, more than anything, and it's kind of dumb, I guess you'd say, but just the fact that it is a time capsule. So I'm looking at all the sets and all the cars and all the stuff in the hotel rooms and all the background things and the way people act. To me, that's just fascinating.
Yeah, I love, the sets are amazing. The casino looks awesome. The hotel room is cool. It's obviously a set because it's friggin' huge.
The cars.
But the cars, yeah. The scenery in Jamaica, I love, Puss Feller's bar looks cool.
Yeah.
And just, a lot of the sets, a lot of the locations.
He
looks really nice.
Yeah, and I'm glad I have a really nice cleaned up version of it now rather than maybe trying to watch
Did you get the Blu-ray version?
I don't know, I think so, yeah. It looked really nice.
I want those Blu-rays so damn bad.
Yeah.
But they're still $200.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
That's the thing I want, for my collection, the James Bond Blu-rays, because I have them all on VHS and DVD.
You say it's $200, but then you factor in how many movies.
Oh, there's 20 movies, $10 a movie.
Totally worth it.
That's pretty good.
It's just you got to come up with.
It's still $200
for it.
I'm not saying it's overpriced. I think it's actually a decent price for 20 movies, plus lots of extras. Because if they included all the extras from the DVDs are filled with extras.
Yeah. So all in all, I enjoyed the movie. I didn't really know what to expect from it. I probably expected a little cheese, but I also expected maybe a little more James Bond stuff. But I give it a pass again because it was the first one. So, yeah, you know what? Not bad. What's the next one?
From Russia with Love.
Okay.
And let me just say that if, you thought you give Dr. No a pass, I think that your expectations will be very well met with From Russia with Love.
Okay.
Schweitzer and I both agree From Russia with Love is one of the best. I think it's my fourth favorite movie, and I think it's Schweitzer's number one.
This is my number one, and it's perfect.
So I'm really excited to watch From Russia with Love again when you decide to take that one on.
Cool.
I like Dr. No. I find there's not a lot of cheesy stuff in it. There's not a lot of action. There's other than the last scene, there's almost no action to it, which is not bad. It's more of a procedural detective type movie. And if you compare it to the later Bonds, which are just action, it might seem a little dull. But I actually like that it's kind of low key, and I think Connery's performance I think it's the best Connery performance of the Bonds.
Yeah.
Or of Connery's Bonds. I think this is his best. I love all the sets. I don't want to call the movie colorful, but like you said, I watched it with a decent transfer too, and it looks really good, really bright.
How much continuity carries over from movie to movie?
Well, stuff that happens in this movie, it does play a factor in the next one.
Spectre carries over. This M is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Moneypenny's the same, so is Q.
No, well, Q is there. He's played by a different actor.
True, yes.
Yeah. So they kind of do it in a way where you can pretty much jump in any movie you want and not be lost.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's definitely for sure. The plot moves really fast. They spend a lot until they get to Crab Key. I think it moves along at a really fast pace. Like, some of the scenes are really short. Like, there's a scene in the casino when Bond is meeting with the last people who saw Strangways.
Yeah.
The scene is like a minute long,
yeah.
and it's basically it's them telling him to go see Dent, I think.
Yeah.
And the scene is like a minute, and it's a little bit too quick, but it's a very fast paced movie. Mm-hmm. Especially in the beginning, Bond. From the time Bond hears about his mission to when he's in Jamaica is like 5 minutes. Like, it goes really fast, and it doesn't. There's not a lot of filler. It doesn't feel like a waste of your time. So I like that. It's not my favorite Bond movie. It'd be in my top 15, maybe. No, maybe top 10. But yeah, I think it's a really solid first entry. Schweitzer?
I love this movie. In some ways, I find a way to love every Bond movie except Die Another Day. I can't fault it, for the stuff that people would find goofy or silly, but it's still a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed watching it from start to finish, which I hadn't done in a couple of years.
I don't think it's aged that poorly either. I mean, it's
not really.
1962, so it's like 50 years old, but I mean, other than, the way, things look and the way it's shot, it's still very accessible, I think.
Very accessible. I mean, obviously you can see treats women a little differently. He gets away with things you could never get away with now with female characters and maybe some of the other things he says and does, but all in all...
Well, one thing I forgot to mention is when they're Bond and Coral and Pussfeller are like hanging out at this party, and the photographer comes up and takes their picture.
Oh yeah.
And then like Coral strong arms her into talking to Bond, and like that goes nowhere.
No.
And like they kind of infer that she's there on behalf of Dr. No, spying on him. But what does taking a picture of the back of Bond's head do?
Yeah.
Like, she takes a picture of him, and Bond makes this big deal of it, but it doesn't do anything.
Especially when he already knows that Bond is on the island.
Yeah, exactly.
She worked for, like, the Dr. No Free Press or something. Like, they have, like, their own little newsletter underground or something.
That was kind of a weird scene that really is pointless and goes nowhere, but...
Yeah.
Again, that's also from the book, even that part where she, like... smashes a light bulb in Quarrel's face.
Yeah, which is a cool moment. Coral just kind of laughs it off.
Which is weird, because in the book he breaks her finger.
Oh, really?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, in the movie says, "Should I break her arm?" Like, Jesus Christ.
I like that line from Bond. Run along, freelance.
Run along, freelance. Yeah. Or I like when Coral first grabs her, she goes, "You're hurting." Like, she doesn't even say "you're hurting me." She's like, "You're hurting."
You can't mean it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a good movie. You think you're going to be watching From Russia with Love?
Yeah. I'll keep going, man. I'm chugging right through this series. We're going to do it. We're going all the way.
I can't wait to discuss them all.
Because I like this idea, and I think when this is done, and God knows there's, 30 of them?
25.
25. So we're going to be doing this for a while.
By the time Spectre comes out, there'll be
Right.
25. Comes out, there'll be 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 25.